Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Eerie International, episode 491 this week. My name is David from the United States.
I'm Andi from Germany.
And I'm Dave from the UK.
And we are reunited to talk about The Hitcher, classic horror film from the 80s that somehow we haven't done on this podcast. You think we would have hit it by now, but we have not. So excited to talk about that. I'm a little rusty. I can feel it already. I'm remembering now that I wasn't, well, not remembering now, we just talked about it, but I wasn't on last week. So bear with me as I get back into the groove. Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time listening, we are a horror show that talks about horror stuff in various mediums. This week it's the medium of film, but it could be books, novels. Those are kind of the same thing, or I guess novels isn't a medium. Or, comic books, audio stuff, whatever else. We get into it. Lots of episodes in our archive you can go download for free, interviews, etc. We haven't done any interviews in a bit, but there are some in there. So yeah, check it out, and thanks for listening. If you'd like to interact with us more, you can do so on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram's usually the best bet. Eerie International is our name on everything. We do have an email address if you'd like to send us some longer form thoughts like our friend Jake did this week, eerieinternational@gmail.com. And I accidentally just closed the email. Here it is. Okay. Our friend Jake wrote in, hello, my eerie friends. I've been meaning to write you guys for a while now, and I finally told myself, fuck it, now or never. I've been listening to the show for years and haven't missed an episode, so whenever you refer to your 5 or 6 listeners, well, I'm one of them. I got all giggly like a little schoolgirl when Andi mentioned me while talking about Red Rooms. So yeah, I'll stop there just in case any listeners are not aware if they didn't hear our episode. Andi, yeah, you called out that you noticed Jake's name, I believe, in the credits of Red Rooms. Was that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And for those listeners who don't know, Jake has been on the podcast before. He had contacted us some years ago. He's French-Canadian, and we did an episode with him. And yeah, I'm glad that he's still listening.
Worked on lots of Turbo Kid related stuff, which we're huge fans of. So, yeah. So yeah, Andi clocked that on Red Rooms, and we speculated, and none of us asked Jake, so we could have just asked him to find out. He continues, I'm so proud to have contributed to that film, even if it was in a very small way. I did the courtroom drawings shown on the news at the end of the movie. Man, I love that film so much, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed it too. Speaking of things we enjoy, I thought I'd mention a couple of things I'm discovering lately that might be worth checking out. I'm currently reading Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman, and it's incredible. If you enjoy dark fantasy a la Berserk or Dark Souls, that kind of atmosphere, I highly recommend it.
This is the moment where I think Jake didn't listen to every episode, because David has talked about this book numerous times.
I was going to say, I have talked about this book on the podcast. Also love it. Co-signed the recommendation. And yeah, for anyone who's listening who, as Jake mentioned, Dark Souls there, like, this is the number one book probably that's recommended on like internet subreddit threads when people are asking, like, what are some fantasy books I can read that are going to feel like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or these From Software games. Between Two Fires is always the number one recommendation. It's everyone's go-to, and for good reason. It's a great book. And I've read a couple other Christopher Buehlman books, and they have been fantastic as well. He's a great writer, so highly recommend it. Jake continues, I'm also reading Vinland Saga. It's not horror or fantasy, but it's an amazing historical manga set during the Viking era. I know there's an anime. Oh, here we go. I know there's an anime adaptation out there, but I haven't checked it out yet. Dave, have you seen it?
I have
Curious to hear your thoughts.
I have seen the anime, and it is absolutely freaking amazing.
Oh, good. I didn't realize the anime was well received too. I've told you guys about this little bookstore in my tiny ass town that I live in Indiana that just feels like a portal to other more obscure bookstores, because they get stock sometimes that just does not make sense for where I live. And I went in one day and they had a bundle of the first, I believe, 12 hardcovers of Vinland Saga bundled together for a price that was insane for how, because they're chunky hardcovers too, like their cover prices are higher. And just based off of you and other people talking about it, I bought that set. So I have 12 volumes of Vinland Saga at home I have not read.
Absolutely fantastic decision, David.
Great.
I only have experience of the anime. I would like to think that it's quite faithful to the manga.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because it's fiction, but it's based heavily on fact. So you've got characters in there like Leif Erikson, who is regarded as the man from the West who maybe first discovered America well ahead of Columbus and all of the, what was his name? Something America. I can't remember his name. And it basically, like, the first season of the anime is proper action adventure, really brutally violent. And then the second season is not that. It is completely different. There's a time skip, and it becomes a very different show. And I know that there was a lot of discourse around about the time that the second season came out for people that didn't know what the show was. And I'm one of those people who didn't know where the show was going to go. And some of them were quite disappointed because they thought they were signing up for a really kind of like Viking era berserk, and that's not it. That's not what the show is. For my part, I absolutely love the direction that it's gone, and I'm really looking forward to further seasons of it if they're going to come. If not, I may have to try and track down a deal like you did for those manga collections, because I've heard nothing but good things about it from people who are in the know. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more from it. So yeah, it's good to hear that the manga is a good one. I didn't doubt it, but sometimes my taste doesn't always line up with everyone's, especially when it comes to like the anime adaptations of stuff. So yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've same for me. I've just heard nothing but great stuff about it. So it's on my list for sure. So much so that I bought the first 12 volumes, as mentioned. Now for back to Jake. Now for the main topic of the week, Wild Zeros. This is the episode that you guys did last week, which I have not listened to yet. I don't usually catch up on podcast episodes, but this was one I was like, man, I'm going to listen to this one this week because this movie sounded awesome. Back to Jake. I have a special relationship with this movie. I discovered it at the Fantasia Festival in the early 2000s and absolutely loved it back then. But the biggest thing was when my friend bought the DVD because it had a bonus feature I'd never seen on any other movie before, a drinking game. There was a little beer icon that would pop up whenever certain things happened. Someone combs their hair, drink. Fire appears, drink. A zombie head explodes, drink. Someone screams rock and roll, drink. We played that game at parties numerous times, and let me tell you, it gets pretty wild. We once calculated that if you actually follow all the rules, you end up drinking 7 or 8 beers during the movie, which is a lot for, I'm assuming, an hour and a half to 2 hours. We were always completely wasted by the end, but hey, we were in our 20s. We could handle it back then. Good times.
That might be the best way to... Sorry, I'm just going to say, like, that might be the best way to enjoy this movie, just from my personal standpoint.
Yeah, our friend Bela wrote in, just to me personally, wrote me a text this week too. He had listened to the episode, and he said something similar, that he watched it back in the day at a cinema with friends and beers, and it was that type of movie. So yeah. I think that was more or less our sentiment last week as well. With a few people and a few drinks, this is probably a very enjoyable movie. Not that we said it's a bad movie. That's not what we said.
No. Sure. But yeah,
just because David hasn't listened to the episode, so he doesn't really know our opinions yet. So we did not shit on the movie, but we were.
I mean, that sounds complimentary to me. Just having only even just seen the poster, it feels accurate for you guys to have. It has that vibe to it. And then Jake wraps up here. If you like the film, I'd also suggest another wild Japanese action horror movie called Versus. I haven't rewatched it in years, but I remember loving it back then. That's it. Thanks sorry for the long email. Make it short next time. Absolutely not. It was a great email, Jake. Have a good one, guys. Yeah, so it sounds like you've seen Versus, Dave. I have as well. Andi, I'm going to guess you have too. Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah. You guys talked about it then.
I have not seen it. It's not easily available. So I know about it. I've known about it for a long time, but I haven't seen it.
Cool. Yeah, I think the last time I saw it would have been probably 14, 15, something like that. And here it was available, but then not very for a long. It was out of print, and then I know they did like a better, like a 4K or a Blu-ray or some sort of restoration, but then there was controversy because the color grading was different. And who is it that directed those movies? It's the guy who made Midnight Meat Train, I think.
Ryuhei Kitamura.
Kitamura, yeah. I'm pretty sure he was involved with it. There's a whole big thing. So I still have my old Steelbook DVD copy of it from when I was in high school, but I was a big fan of it then too. Cool. All right. Let's, I said this already, but just to reiterate, Jake, thank you so much for writing it. Great to hear from you. We love, having you on the show. If you ever want to come back on, hit us up. Would love to have you, and it's always great to hear from you. And also,
Still
for everyone
have
out there,
on my list that I keep of movies that we want to do or that we might do one day. I still have the 3 movies that back then when we recorded with him, he suggested we could do with him. So,
oh shit,
Jake, just so you know, the list still does exist.
Andi remembered. Yes. So, and Jake has, just to spell it out for everybody too, Jeik, Jake is his first name, and then Dion, Dion. Amazing artist. Go follow him on everything. He constantly is posting stuff on Instagram and TikTok, whatever, that just stops me in my tracks. I think he's such a stellar artist. So worth following just to see his art alone, but also just a good dude. Okay, let's get into what we got into over the past week. Andi, I believe you've got a couple things, so kick us off. What'd you get up to?
Yeah, just a quick mention of a couple of movies. So ever since we did that episode on Nine Inch Nails' Broken, and I also talked about the Patrick Willems video essay on music video directors, that topic has stayed with me. It's a topic that I every few years I get back to, and now I'm currently in one of those periods. So since then I thought David Fincher is my favorite director, but from the second half of his filmography, I've seen every movie only once. The first 6 I've seen several times. The second 6 I've seen once each. So I thought I'd rewatch some of those, and at the same time rewatch a couple of movies by Mark Romanek. Rewatch one and watch one that I hadn't seen yet. I just looked what our local library has on offer by Fincher and Mark Romanek and Jonathan Glazer, but that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. But anyway, so I did 2 double features this past week of Mark Romanek movies and David Fincher movies. And I paired them, one Romanek, one Fincher each time, and the first 2 were the ones that came from the crime section. So I watched 1 Hour Photo and Fincher's version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo as a double feature. I think those movies were, I would deem them Eerie eligible.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Especially 1 Hour Photo, which is just a psycho thriller starring Robin Williams in one of his very, very serious roles, even psychotic roles. Later on, I also realized that both movies were shot by the same DP, Jeff Cronenweth, who shot many movies for David Fincher. So it paired well as a double feature in that regard as well. I do want to mention something that I learned this week looking into a few people, which made me not happy. Let's phrase it that way. So you remember this documentary Melania came out this year, directed by Brett Ratner.
We remember it came out. Nobody remembers watching it.
Yeah,
sure.
That movie was shot by 3 camera teams. One guy I didn't know. The other guys are Jeff Cronenweth and Dante Spinotti, who shot like many movies for Michael Mann, like Heat and Last of the Mohicans, but was also Brett Ratner's go-to DP. So they had a connection before. Why Cronenweth worked on that movie, I do not know, but I also know that Fincher hasn't worked with him since 2014. So that was a weird thing. And Jeff Cronenweth was one of those DPs that also shot many of the music videos back in the day for Fincher and Mark Romanek. So he came from that same pool of music video people that made it to movies. So yeah, anyway. And then I also watched Never Let Me Go by Romanek and The Social Network by Fincher. That was my second double feature, both not eerie movies, but still. Although Never Let Me Go is at least a sort of dystopia.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the movies, and that's it.
Sweet, awesome. Yeah, I really want to rewatch Never Let Me Go. We were talking about this off air. I won't have to spin it off into a tangent, but it's one I remember liking. Okay, I've got a couple of quick things. I reread a comic book that I had not read in years. That has since had an adaptation made for it that is much more mainstream than not even mainstream. It seems like it's a pretty accurate adaptation of the book, but just a project overall I never thought would become mainstream. I reread The End of the Fucking World by Charles Forsman, which is a comic book that I bought from Charles Forsman at SPX almost 15 years ago. Like it was and in fact, I remember when I was reading my copy of it, the corner of it is all bent and busted or whatever. And when I bought it, it was the last copy he had at the table. And he warned me, he's like, look, this is the last one I've got. It's all kind of beat up, but like I'll sign it, put a sketch in there and stuff. So remember reading this comic back in the day. Our friend Austin, who's been on the podcast, used to do a podcast with him about comics, and I believe it was on his radar first and had mentioned it to me. And then in the years since then, it was adapted into a Netflix TV show, which I believe, Andi, you watched and talked about on the show, correct? You watched this series?
Yeah, I watched that
Okay.
series. I remember liking it a lot.
Yeah, that was my memory as well, that you were a fan of it, and it's continued to pop up in various ways. It's always been on my radar. I know that some of the same team, maybe some of the same people involved, it might have just been producers. They also did another Charles Forsman adaptation, which I think you also watched. I'm Not Okay With This, which I also read the book of and enjoyed. But yeah, The End of the Fucking
Now I'm actually not entirely sure anymore, just from the titles, which one is which, because one I did watch in the entire series, one I only watched an episode.
Okay.
So, and I think it might have been I'm Not Okay With This, the one that I watched. So with the female protagonist, the lady from the It movies.
Yep.
That's the one that I watched and liked.
Okay.
The other one with the guy we only watched an episode of.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I think I want to say the director, showrunner's the same, different writer, but yeah, some of the same style and vibe, it seems like. But it's super interesting seeing them. I'm Not Okay With This, the book. I didn't reread that one, so I won't go super into it, but it seems a little bit more accessible I mean, it has a very dark ending that I think they changed. But The End of the Fucking World, when you read that book, it does not at all feel like something that would be a, kind of dark, comedic, quirky teen Netflix show. and I believe this is also one that maybe can't remember if Netflix picked it up. It's British, I believe, the production. But it's it's about a couple of kids, teenagers that kind of go on the run. One of them, James, the guy who is played by I forget his name. He's Sydney, whatever her name is, Kyle Chandler's daughter's her name is, I forget. She on Alien Earth. He plays her older brother on Alien Earth. So Dave and we talked about him a bunch when we were talking about Alien Earth. He was a great actor on that show. So he plays James in the series. And then Alyssa, I believe, is the girl's name. Don't know who she is. He was the only person in the cast that I remember that I recognized. But they go on the run, and he feels kind of like he's maybe potentially a serial killer on his way to becoming a serial killer. He doesn't really feel emotions, just feels kind of empty and hollow, sociopathic. And then it goes from there. I don't know how the TV show plays out exactly. I know there's 2 seasons of it from what I've understood. The first season is the comic. And then the second season is like new material, new characters. But the comic I reread this week, and I really liked it. Even I remember liking it back in the day. This was the first Charles Forsman thing I'd read. I've since gone on in the years since then to read a lot of his stuff. At times have subscribed to his like mail order sort of like ongoing mini comics that he would update and mail out before he would put stuff together in collections. At The End of the Fucking World was actually that way. It was like 13 mini comics that are collected together in one book now. And I liked it back in the day. I think I probably would have maybe not rolled my eyes, but maybe sort of kind of been like, yeah, okay, I get it. It's a little simplistic. It's dark. It's, kind of fucked up in that sort of, Fantagraphics drawn and quarterly sort of indie comic way. Those sort of labels, if you're familiar with those. And in fact, Fantagraphics put out the collection. Reading it now, though, I don't know if I'm assuming because I'm older, I've read more stuff, maybe just being used to his style and going back to it. It hit me way harder this time around, and I was very into it. It still is very dark and simplistic, and I say simplistic not in a negative way, but just it's very stripped down storytelling, stripped down art, stripped down characterization in a way that's still very effective. But I think in some ways the aesthetic of it makes some of what you're looking at a little more disarming. I don't know. It's a weird sort of experience. But I'm excited to watch the show now. That's next on my list is to watch the adaptation, but I won't spoil where it goes. The comic definitely goes into some crazy, horror, definitely horror places for sure. But I'm not sure if the show will adapt it that way. Anyway, very strange. If I had to lay out all of my predictions for comics that would have been adapted into quirky teen shows, this would be at the bottom of the list. It's not, at first glance, does not seem like the kind of thing that would be successful as a TV show, but apparently they figured it out because it did well. So anyway, the book's great. I reread that and really enjoyed it. And then I also saw a film. I saw Hokum. That's what it was. This is the new film from Damien McCarthy. He's made, I believe, 3 feature films so far. Irish. All of these movies are Irish as fuck, at least the ones I've seen. I haven't seen his first movie, which I think is called Caveat. I did see Oddity, which I would have talked about on the show. It's the Irish folklore, kind of heavily influenced by Irish folklore movie with the woman who has this like mannequin thing that's made out of wood and branches that's really creepy that's sitting at a table. They use that in a lot of the marketing. Hokum is this new film, definitely the most, at least, from my perspective, like mainstream. It came out, I believe, through Neon. Adam Scott is in the starring role, and it's also very Irish as fuck. It's about a guy who is a writer, very sort of like narcissistic, depressed kind of asshole personality, and he is visiting this hotel in Ireland that his parents, after they got married, they spent their honeymoon at this hotel, this area, like kind of out in the woods, more secluded or whatever. And he's going back there to, basically, visit where they were at and see some of these memories or whatever. There's a pretty big setup, like reveal twist sort of thing that's not in any of the marketing. That for me at least, was a key part of why I ended up really liking the movie, at least in terms of like setting up characterization and everything else. So I'm not going to spoil what that thing is, and I'm glad that the trailers also didn't. And it's not like a Sixth Sense type twist or anything, but there is sort of a launching point for what the movie becomes. And when you watch the trailers, it kind of seems like, oh, this is Adam Scott, scared in a hotel, like in a haunted hotel, and there's and this is the trailer as well, like people talking about, oh, there's a legend that there's a witch that lives in the basement of this hotel, or somewhere in this hotel there's a honeymoon suite that is locked off, has its own elevator that no one's allowed to go in there, and so there's a mystery sort of almost escape roomy kind of element to the hotel as well. There's different sort of like rooms and contraptions and things that he runs into. So the kind of the bulk of the movie, and the vibe you'd get from the trailers as well, is him either trapped in this hotel or exploring it, investigating whatever, and there's some sort of witch element. I ended up liking it quite a bit. It's definitely more low-key sort of horror. It's not going to be, like Evil Dead, just really intense, crazy shit happening all the time. It's going to be more of a ghost story. I want to say it was Elric Kane maybe in his review on Letterboxd, talked about how it is kind of like the perfect Christmas ghost story, like you guys bring up for that you guys do in the UK and I think probably just more popular in Europe in general, but specifically in England, and these adaptations and everything, like it has that sort of vibe to it. So I really enjoyed it. I thought Adam Scott was great. I thought another thing I really like about McCarthy in general, the Oddity was the same way. His knack for writing character is pretty stellar. I think especially for horror, where so often we're watching horror movies where we are introduced to characters that we do not give a fuck about, and they're basically there to die, or to be used for something else. And even it might even be characters that are supposed to be likable or are, we're not supposed to dislike, but the time spent with them and the focus on them is usually so minimal and so minor compared to the other stuff that's getting set up in the horror movie, whether it's scares or atmosphere or lore or whatever the fuck. McCarthy has this knack, man. He did this in Oddity too, like I said, for introducing characters and then just within a few sentences of dialogue, fleshing them out in a way where you're like, oh shit, I like this person. Like I like the way that they made that joke or that delivery or this little piece of information that we got about them. And Hokum is no different. There's 2 or 3 characters that get so little screen time comparatively speaking to Adam Scott, and then also just for movies in general, but leave such a lasting impression that you're just on their side. And it's I don't know, I've noticed it for 2 movies in a row, and I think it's a pretty rare achievement to be that, I say, that good at it. I'm sure it takes a lot of work too, but I have picked up on it both times, and I've noticed other people talking about that as well. So yeah, I really dug it. I recommend it for sure. I think that it, especially right now in the US, it came kind of in between like Ready or Not Part 2. Obsession came out this weekend, which is like the big horror movie everyone's super excited about. Looks very intense, and Hokum is much more low-key, dialed down. Sorry, did one of you guys say something just now?
No.
Oh, okay, it sounded like it cut in, and I was like, shit, maybe I've been talking over them and the connection's bad.
No, you're fine, dude.
I've just been going on and on. So anyway, yeah, really, really enjoyed it, and highly recommend it, especially if you are in the what's the fucking phrase? If you're looking for like a ghost supernatural, it still has some cool scares, and can be intense at times, but it's got a lot of atmosphere, and really dug it. Yeah, liked it quite a bit. And that is it for me this week. So I'm not just skipping over Dave. Dave, you didn't have anything this week, so I want people to know that we're not just ignoring you.
No, absolutely.
Let's jump into our main movie of the week then. This week we're talking about The Hitcher, 1986 horror thriller that before now I knew way more because of, I knew of this movie, but I've only ever seen the remake, which has a Nine Inch Nails song on it. I already brought this up off air, so I won't get into it too much now. But the original one came out in 1986, directed by Robert Harmon, written by Eric Red. It stars Rutger Hauer as the title character, the Hitcher, a murderous hitchhiker who stalks a young motorist, played by C. Thomas Howell, across the highways of West Texas. Jennifer Jason Leigh is also in it. Jeffrey DeMunn showed up in Walking Dead years later. That's what I always think of him from. This is as mentioned at the top of the show, kind of classic horror film. One that is, I think, one of those sort of touchstone films for so many other. At this point, it's not too dissimilar from shark movies. If you make a shark horror movie, you're going to get comparisons to Jaws. I think a lot of these sorts of highway terrorizing movies, like The Hitcher, is kind of the touchstone. Andi, you brought this one up, I believe, because it's on Broly streaming for free. So if anybody wants to watch it, there's access there. I'm assuming that's the only reason you recommended it for this week, Andi, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's my goal to just review every movie that's free on Broly.
We're making our
no,
way
it's
through.
just as I mentioned in the past, I've rediscovered Broly for myself and feel like they have a lot more to offer in the sense that we all have access to it, and not like it used to be that many of the movies weren't available, for example, in Germany or in other territories. So it's easy for all of us to find the movie. And they have a very good selection. And The Hitcher is a movie that I had seen a long time ago, once on back in the video days, probably. And I believe it was most of the time it was Dave, but the movie has been brought up on Eerie several times. Don't ask me about why, but I remember it was mentioned more than once. And I thought, it seems like it's well regarded in our circle. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been brought up that often. I was interested in rewatching it, and that's why I suggested it.
Perfect. As I mentioned, I had only seen the remake, so I was down to watch the original. Dave, I believe you made a joke when I mentioned the Nine Inch Nails song being in the new one that you said counterpoint. The original one has Rutger Hauer and is therefore the superior film. And I believe my response was, Dave, I haven't even seen it, and I agree with you. So the remake's not great. But it does have Sean Bean. He plays the Rutger Hauer character, so that was neat. Anyway, okay, let's go around here and just talk about our overall thoughts of the film. Dave, kick us off this week. What'd you think of The Hitcher?
I really liked it. No surprise, because I've seen it before, and I've probably been guilty of bringing it up equally as many times, if not more, than either of you on the show. I don't know. Maybe I have. Maybe I haven't. It was a weird one watching this back, because despite my real love for the movie, I've not seen it that many times, and the last time I saw it was quite some time ago, and for all these years, for some reason in my head, the movie ends with the scene where what's her name, Beck or something like that.
The
Nash, yes. Where Big Sexy is strapped up to the 18-wheeler and then pulled apart.
That's a wrestling reference, I believe.
Yes, it is.
For anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, Kevin Nash, Big Sexy.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of laboured under the assumption for years, and I don't know where this came from, that the movie ends with her being pulled apart and then the fade to black. I completely forgot that there's a whole section of the movie that comes afterwards. And that just kind of made the movie even better for me. Because I love movies with nihilistic endings. No. I love a movie with a nihilistic ending where it makes sense. Some movies just do it for shock value. And this wouldn't have been one of them if it had ended that way. But it carries on. I love the way that this is filmed, the fact that it's essentially just one guy's bad day. This essentially takes place over 24 hours, starting in the dark of the early morning and then finishing in the dark of the night after. You see a lot of, and forgive me because my knowledge of what the different parts of the US are called, I think of Midwest, and I think of, like,
where I live,
where you live, basically. Yeah. But like this felt kind of like Route 66. I don't know if it is Route 66, but it feels similar to that idea of it that we outside of the US have.
Desert kind of.
Yeah. And there's an awful lot of different scenery that you see along the way. Like at the end of the movie, it's literally just like a desert. The road is on top of a sand dune almost. At the beginning of the movie, it's more kind of like what you'd expect from Texas, kind of open fields, sun parched, maybe the odd bit of tumbleweed, and yeah, I love the tone of the movie. The fact that Rutger Hauer he's not quite a Jason type character in that he just keeps coming at you and nothing can stop him, because nothing is ever done to really test that theory until the very end. But he's got this relentlessness to him that it feels very oppressive. Like he's always one step ahead. He's always kind of like in the background following you without you knowing. It's one of those movies where at the very beginning, Jim Halsey says, "My mum always told me not to do this." And the entire audience are screaming, "Why the fuck are you doing it then, you dumbass?" And it puts everything right out front. Like that first 10 minutes of the movie where they have this interaction, and Halsey basically says, like, "What do you want from me?" And Ryder says, "I want you to stop me." You immediately know what he means by that. He's basically like, I want you to kill me. I want you to stop me because I can't stop myself. And the entire movie is basically Ryder just kind of like pushing Halsey all the way to the edge, trying to get him to the point where he's willing to finally do this for him. And for a lot of the movie, I think Halsey assumes that it's a vendetta against him personally, where I don't think it's that. I think Ryder sees something in him that he doesn't see in the other people that he Hitch's rides from, which is, oh, this kid might actually have the potential to finally put me out of my misery. It's a really interesting film. It's not quite a slasher. It's not quite a car chase. It's got lots of parts of all of those movies, but it does things differently to all of them. And I think this is right in the middle of Rutger Hauer being like the go-to psychotic Hollywood bad guy. When was
I just read this earlier. So this was after Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And he apparently was worried about this specifically. Was worried about too many villain roles and doing that. But he read the script for this and apparently was like, the quote I read was that he said something along the lines of, "If I do one more villain role, it needs to be this one."
Yeah.
He liked that character, this Jack Ryder psychopath kind of guy.
Yeah. And like I think the final thing I'll say for now, because I'm just kind of like scattergunning a lot of my ideas here. I got about halfway through the movie and I thought to myself, look, I know how this ends. I know that this isn't the case, but you could make a really strong argument for this being almost like an ID movie. And by that, I mean that there is no such thing as John Ryder, that Jim Halsey is basically seeing John Ryder. He's psychotic.
The id,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and that he is actually the killer and the victim all in one. And I thought, well, that would be a very interesting idea and something that other filmmakers have tried to do down the line.
It's High Tension. That's a movie that I thought about while watching The Hitcher.
Yeah. So yeah, I really love it. I do. I've never watched the sequel. Apparently there was a sequel made in 2003 that I literally just learned about right now. And then obviously the 2007 remake. I feel like I've watched the end of it because don't they switch the victim out? So it's Halsey's character that ends up tied up to the big rig?
Yep. And he gets ripped in half. And they show it in the remake. The original, they don't show it. Of course they do.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I think
then,
it's more effective.
she's the final girl basically for the last like third act of the remake,
which
is kind of what they did for that sequel too, the direct-to-video sequel. I was reading the plot of that, and they do a very similar thing where
really?
Because Halsey is played by C. Thomas Howell in that that sequel. Apparently, it's dog shit. It seemed like it's pretty bad.
I mean, not to shit on Jake Busey's career, but
sure.
Jake Busey is the bad guy in it. So
no, Rutger Hauer, yeah. And he gets killed, I think, midway through the movie, and then it becomes a final girl thing for her, sort of deal. So
okay,
yeah,
I mean, I like the concept of that. The fact that they took that and used it for the remake is a cool idea. And Sean Bean, I've always been a fan of, regardless of what role he plays. He always brings something to it, which is interesting to watch. But fortunately, or maybe not fortunately, depending on your outlook, we're not talking about that version today. So. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it definitely deserves its position as kind of like a modern cult classic. Didn't do well at the time, but it increasingly has found an audience after the fact. So yeah, big fan.
Cool. Andi, what'd you think?
Yeah, I was curious what my opinion on it would be now, since I had only seen it the one time a very long time ago. I didn't dislike it, but it also didn't leave a very strong impression. There's exactly one moment from the movie that I had always remembered, but not a lot about the movie other than that. And I have to say I had a great time with it. So I think it's really fun. It starts immediately, and it is following that. It's almost like Mad Max Fury Road, shot by the same DP, by the way.
Is it really?
Maybe a reason why the Hitcher looks good. It's shot by John Seal.
Holy shit!
Yeah, but it's the type of movie. So where the setting, the road, is also the motion of the movie. It's just we're just sitting in a car going straight ahead, and the movie never stops until it actually someone is stopped. But it's just the road almost becomes is the metaphor for the tension in the movie and the pacing of the movie, the straightforwardness of the story, of the quest.
Yeah.
And I mean, we immediately start with guy in car on the road, and he gets another guy in the car. And as Dave already mentioned, sure, we as an audience think, I mean, we know what we're watching, and we think you shouldn't have taken this guy into your car, and he even tries to get rid of him. And I think that's one of the clever moments in the script, that he even stops the car and says, "Get out of you should get out of the car," so that we as an audience don't think that Jim Halsey is just a complete idiot. And yeah, Rutger Hauer is the perfect villain that doesn't really have an obvious motive for what he's doing, and he kills a lot of people and children and very gruesome. And so he is that menace that doesn't stop for anyone. Everyone in his way is a victim to him. It's very, very brutal, although we don't see everything like Nash being pulled apart, but still, it does happen. So everyone around, I mean, Jim Halsey must have the craziest trauma after what happens to him in this movie. So what I found interesting is I had read the Wikipedia article before I watched the movie, and there's a few moments in that Wikipedia article where I thought to myself, I don't know if you succeeded, especially the moment when some of the filmmakers, when they got the script and they tried to convince their boss or something to produce the movie, and they said they wanted to convince him that this is more than just an exploitation movie, and they don't just want to do a slasher movie. And this movie is such an exploitation movie to its core.
Yeah.
This is the perfect example of an exploitation movie. Sure, it's well shot. It has a higher production value than other movies. It has people in it that you recognize from other movies before, but still, the movie itself, straight exploitation movie, straight in, being violent to the end, movie's done. There's not too much character development or something like that. It doesn't deal with the meaning of life or whatever. This is a ride. I have a wild theory, or I want to say something. I think that Jim Halsey is a fucking psychopath and needed to be taken down by John Ryder. Here's my argument why. So he sits in that diner having his chips, his fries. And
which is a great reveal shot too.
Yeah. You see him, he takes a bite of a French fry. He has the rest of the fry in his hands. His hands leaves the frame. Yep. His hand comes back into the frame with a finger between his fingers. So he has put aside a French fry that he's already bitten off of and picked up another piece from his plate. Who does that?
Yeah, you've convinced me. You convinced me. He needs taken down.
He needs taken down.
Yeah.
And that's the moment that I remembered, not the weird theory that I just had, but the moment that he picked up the finger. That's the one moment that I remembered from having the movie seen one time decades ago.
Okay. Because for me, I absolutely remembered that moment where he wakes up in the cell and it's unlocked and he walks through and the dog is lapping at the neck of the dead detective. That was a moment that I immediately kind of recalled, along with the truck, the big rig at the end.
David, what's your opinion?
I'm pretty much with you guys on this one. I also really enjoyed it. I think the thing that surprised me I don't know. I think I'd seen enough scenes of it that it was one of those that it felt like, even though I hadn't watched it, I felt like I'd seen it, or I was aware enough of it because of just horror and pop culture and all that kind of stuff. But definitely didn't feel that way by the end of it, both in terms of like realizing, just the performances that were at play that I never got to see the depth of, I think. And again, not in terms of like thematic depth, because it is very much an exploitation movie, like Andi said. But just, I guess, the intensity and everything else. The way the plot works is there's a quote toward the end of the Wikipedia article and talking about like impact and influence on people, that Christopher Nolan apparently was a big fan of it. And there's a quote from him where he talks about, like, as a kid, he never questioned the logic of the movie, but as an adult, he's just like, it is insanely arbitrary, this plot. Like, it is really, and I got that vibe watching it, for sure. The amount of times that people pull out fucking guns when they don't need to, when they steal cars when they don't need, there's just so much stuff that happens where you're just like, holy fuck, you guys are actively making everything worse always. But I think if you're clicked into the movie for specific reasons, and I think that the movie absolutely signals those to you right away. One of my favorite things about it is how it starts. Like, he picks him up and you are in it. Like, this is not a slow burn. This is not a something feels off, or we're going to establish him with, a lot of movies would have him pick up a different hitchhiker and have a different sort of experience to sort of set the tone or whatever, so that when John Ryder shows up, we feel that, it's different, or it's more significant, or, our character has already dealt with this sort of thing. This movie, he is in the car right away, and within like 10 minutes, he's pushed him out of the car. Like, the movie hits the ground, not running, but driving, whatever, let's say, and is very much at that momentum and at that speed. The other thing that was my biggest, honestly, my biggest takeaway was one that Andy's alluded to already, which is, it is a fucking crazy looking movie. Like, just wonderfully shot. The amount of, and this is across the board, the amount of just shots that they've set up and turn, like, there's one, I took a video on my phone to send to Austin and those guys, the shot with the highway chase scene where the helicopter shows up.
Oh, dude.
And yeah, you get that like full on front, like
the sound
further
mixing
down
in there as well.
And both of those cop cars flipping after one of them shoots the tire out with the shotgun and he like hits the brakes and pulls back, like the way the cars are flipping around and stuff, just things that would look great in a movie that is not a horror movie, that is an action chase sort of film, that would look pretty stunning in a film like, but we have it in this kind of grimy exploitation horror thing. And that the movie's filled with moments like that. I think the blocking, like the framing of the French fry thing that we talked about, I thought that was such a great sort of reveal. Again, you can close your eyes and see in your mind's eye how every other movie would have shot that, which would be to, have him look down at the plate, or, zoom in on something or whatever else. But having the camera stay static and him bring the finger up into like, all that stuff's so good. There's a shot I rewound a couple times where I believe it's maybe then it's at a certain point where he's leaving the diner, but the camera is panning. They I'm assuming have it on a track or something, but it's moving from left to right, and you are following one of the cops yelling, running into the door of the diner, and as the camera keeps moving to the right, Jim, explodes out of a side door and is running, like, with that same sort of sense of movement the entire time. Bunch of different shots from the like POV where they've like clearly mounted cameras to like tires on the cars, like all these little details throughout the entire thing. And I think also just the landscapes, like the nature sort of photography kind of angle and everything else. Like, we have all these awesome vistas, and they use them to their advantage, whether it's like, giving a lot of perspective for the shot, or even the like very final ending moments of him leaning against the car and smoking a cigarette, all that kind of stuff. Like, it looks crazy good, and in a way that I was not expecting or prepared for. We've talked about this before, horror movies, especially in the 80s, they have a look and a feel that I click into and I'm excited for, and I don't have a baseline necessarily for quality, because there's so much vibe and atmosphere of that era. This was one where it was just like, oh, this, when you said it was shot by the dude who went on to make Fury Road, I'm like, yep, that makes sense. Like, this is that. It's not Fury Road level insanity, obviously, but that same energy and just entire sort of execution, I think is very apparent. So yeah, I for me, it was definitely a win overall. I, at times would kind of roll my eyes at how just sort of insane some of the decisions that were being made were, ways that the script was kind of contorting itself so that it still made sense for things to go the way that they did. It has that vibe more than anything, to where it's like, well, we can't have John Ryder be caught or figured out this soon, so we have to keep figuring out ways to get them out of this situation into this new situation. But Howard, I thought, was great too. I really liked it's creepy as fuck, but the sequence where he's like watching her sleep and then is laying down on the bed next to, like, all that stuff's really just kind of weird. And even the part where Jim spits in his face when he's in the interrogation room and then he leaves, and Howard's character is like kind of enjoying the spit, wiping it off his face. There's a weird thing to it where you're just like, is he just a weirdo? Is there a sexual component happening here that we're not necessarily touching on, explicitly? Like, what the fuck is happening? And I felt like they maintained that really well throughout the entire thing. There's a lot of stuff in the Wikipedia article about apparently how they went back and forth with Nash getting torn in half, whether it was going to happen at all, whether it was going to be shown, whether it was going to be implied. This was one, I don't know if it's my age, whatever else. This was one where I felt like it absolutely worked better than not showing it.
Yeah.
To me, and not even like it. There's not even, the implication is there in the sense that once it comes back from black, we know that it happened. But they're pretty, like, they don't even really show it start to happen. Like, it's pretty much just a foot off the gas thing, and then we go to black. Which I did not remember or not know, I guess.
Yeah, they do some really clever establishing shots to let you know exactly what's happening. Like, they have 2 or 3 cuts to her hands, and the fact that they're bleeding, from the tension and the ropes cutting into her. They go directly from him revving the engine and letting off the clutch a little bit to the wheels moving, and then to her screaming in pain as she is physically lifted as she's being stretched out. And I'm with you. I think that this is the most effective way of doing it, and we've said this on the show countless times before. But if you your imagination is never going to be beaten in terms of what happens to someone if you don't directly see it. And there are some movies that have got tighter budgets which have used that to their advantage over the years, and there are some movies that have the budget to do it but just choose not to, because they know that it's going to be more effective if they leave it to the audience to fill in the blanks. And this is a movie that actually, it doesn't show much violence being committed at all, if you think about it. The murders that he commits early on are all off screen. The scene that I mentioned earlier where Horsey wakes up and his cell is open and he finds all the dead troopers, they've already been killed, so you see the aftermath but you don't see the violence being committed. The severed finger is a really effective scene, but again, you're not seeing someone have their finger chopped off. She doesn't get ripped in half in front of your eyes. The only thing that you do see in terms of actual violence being visited on people is Horsey being arrested and him shooting Ryder at the end of the movie with the shotgun. And I would still describe it as a very violent movie, despite all of that, because it's all implied. The story is told through the filmmaking in a really effective way that leaves you under no illusions as to what's going on. And I think they made some important and interesting choices which absolutely enhance the effect of the movie for me personally. I did want to go back to that helicopter scene for a second, because you mentioned it was like really well shot. The fact that the helicopter kind of emerges over the crest of the hill as the car is about to crest it itself. But again, going back to establishing shots, just before that, you see a shot of the car coming towards you, and you can see that there's a bunch of lumps and bumps in the road, that it goes up and down and up and down. So you're not immediately expecting anything when you see him going over another hill at the end. But then the sound mixing, which I mentioned when you first brought it up, but I wanted to bring it back to it. To begin with, it sounds just like he's almost like rolling with a slight flat tire or something. Like that vum, 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 vum kind of noise. And then they managed to mix it in so perfectly with the sound of the helicopter rotors, which, if I was going to make that noise, is vum, 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 very, very similar. But they just as it's about to, as the car is climbing the hill, and just as about as the moment that the helicopter emerges, they increase the level just slowly to the point that you wouldn't even notice, but then it clicks in just at the right moment, and it just crests, and you see the helicopter. The escalation, I'm here for it because it gives us like the police shooting at him from a helicopter, and it gives you car crashes, and it gives you all sorts. I can understand the justification for the escalation because they are now armed suspects. But yeah, there are things like, they're calling out on the radio and no one's paying any attention to them. There's the one detective who's like, "You spat on my wrist, son. You better wipe it off." It's like, go for the gun. So I've got plausible deniability. But he seems to be the only one that, to begin with, who is up for that. Like his partner is like, "Don't do this. Don't do this." And then, like, they make an escape, and it's like, yeah, we're all gonna fucking kill them now. Like, they just switch to like, oh well, yeah, we got to catch them. To we're fucking killing them. We are gonna pump that car so full of lead that it's gonna weigh twice what it weighed when it starts. But it makes for a really exciting movie. Great action set pieces where you're really worried for your characters, and the movie could not be made today for a number of technical reasons the same way that it was made back then. The proliferation of mobile phones and cameras on phones means that like the police aren't going to go from 0 to 100. I don't think quite as quickly. I say that because like absolutely they probably would. But also like he spends the first half of the movie searching for a phone. If this movie's made today, he's got a mobile phone. You can make you could have it be that he's out of reception, or
service,
maybe the phone battery dies on him, or maybe he drops his phone somewhere, or something like that. But still, it's like it's pretty difficult to make an 80s movie that relies on this kind of formula where you've got a character who wants to get in contact with the authorities and let them know what's happened, but can only do it at a certain number of places. It's so difficult to make it unless you make the movie a period piece, or you come up with some pretty convoluted ways of taking that technology out of the picture. But man, yeah, like such a well shot movie, like the choice of shots leading up to certain things happening just to frame everything and to let us know as an audience what's going on, and it's just so well done. It really is. Like I know it's an exploitation movie, it's a trashy movie, but I fucking love an exploitation movie, and it's a really well shot exploitation. So yeah, like
I think
more
the
of
craft
this.
on display with this movie is undeniable.
Yeah.
You might not like the story, you might not like the characters, whatever, but the sheer craft in sound and picture of this movie is it's I don't really like that sentence that much, but it's one of those movies where people would say it's better than it has any right to be.
Yeah,
because
Guilty.
if you would explain the plot to someone, they wouldn't necessarily expect the movie to look this good and to sound this good, and
Yeah.
If you look at the reviews that they mentioned in the Wikipedia article, this movie was destroyed when it came
Ebert
out.
gave it 0 stars, which is for Ebert was
Siskel too.
rare.
They say
Yeah.
so both of them hated this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. The like you mentioned, and it's interesting reading about the production of it, because there was that sort of kind of, I think, awareness by a lot of the people involved in making it, especially like producers and stuff, that it was this. It sounds like the script initially was much more intense, much more graphic and violent, and showed a lot more in general. But I think there was the sense that they knew they were making something kind of lurid, for at least maybe for the kind of stuff that they would be making. And then there also, I mean, HBO was involved. That's another thing too. Like when that first came up on screen, it said like an HBO Films, whatever. I was like, oh shit, I thought this was like a theatrical sort of release, like a full on. Like I didn't realize it was an HBO movie. But I think it was kind of both. I think they had an agreement with TriStar or whoever it was so it was released theatrically, but it was production wise, it was through HBO Films. But yeah, the whole time you could kind of see like the push and pull with the filmmakers and the screenwriters and and people kind of standing their ground with aspects of it, but then producers wanting them to change it. And I think knowing that they had something, but also knowing that it was something that maybe was going to be not controversial, but maybe disliked for some of those same reasons. The one thing I was also going to call out, I don't know that do I know C. Thomas Howell from anything else? Is there any other big things he was in at this age?
That because he's got one of those faces, and I think he looks a lot like the lead character from The Lost Boys.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Jason Pat, yeah, he's got that.
I always reference my reference point for him is always The Outsiders, the Francis Ford Coppola movie that had every young star before they were stars: Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, C. Thomas Howell, Ralph Macchio. Blanking on a couple of guys right now, but yeah, that's my connection to him.
He was in E.T. in a supporting role, but other than that. And
I looked that one up because he's Elliot's older brother's friend, so he's one of the kids on the bikes, I'm sure, but not like one of the main. And then I've always known, I'm pretty sure, wasn't he like a co-lead in Red Dawn, which I've also not seen. So it's another one.
Me neither. Another Patrick Swayze movie.
Yeah,
there's a lot of movies here that I probably should have seen that I have heard of and just haven't got around to.
Yeah. And that's kind of okay. So it sounds like we're on the same page, because there were a bunch of different ones that I saw where I was like, oh, okay, well, that I haven't seen The Outsiders, I haven't seen Red Dawn, but he definitely has like, I don't. It's interesting seeing him on screen, because I think he has the look and the presence of, like, it makes sense that he's in The Outsiders. Like it probably also makes sense that of that group, he's one that's remembered but not as big, because it was just a massive group of actors in that era, and like the Brat Pack and all that kind of stuff. But he absolutely, I think, has it doesn't feel like we're getting like, oh, this is like kind of a Kmart version of, Charlie Sheen or whatever. I think he carries the movie really well. Like, there obviously is like some, discussion to be made about the character and how he acts and everything else. But in terms of him, and like, I thought and that was another thing too. Jennifer Jason Leigh, same thing. Like, you can see right away with her, like, she's just got it. Like, this is such a small, pretty basic role, like out in the middle of nowhere, diner waitress sort of thing. But their banter and the way that she talks, like, there's just so much there. You can tell, like, oh, she's phenomenal. Like, she's already this, bringing so much of this role. And there's little moments like that throughout. Another little strange moment that I really enjoyed is the part where she's sleeping in the hotel room, and he goes to take a shower, and he accidentally turns the TV on. There's a light switch that turns the TV on or whatever, and it kind of wakes her up for a second. You could tell he's like, oh, sorry, he turns it back off or whatever. Moments like that always stick out to me in movies now, because it's just the kind of thing that adds a little bit of texture and a little bit of reality. Like, we all know what that feels like, to be in a room with someone when they're sleeping and you accidentally turn something on and make noise or whatever. Like, you're trying to be very quiet. But it's also one of those things that I feel like in 99% of cases in the editing bay or producers or whatever would be like, cut this part. We don't need this. What's the point, kind of thing. But those more and more stick out to me. So there were little moments like that with their rapport too, in the diner and everything else, that I felt like felt very sort of grounded and realistic in a way that, again, you don't necessarily expect from a movie about a guy. I started to say chasing a guy in a car, but he's not really. He just kind of is appearing constantly. You don't really see him move around.
It definitely, the second half of the movie becomes a lot closer to your standard kind of car chase.
That's true.
When he gets that kind of pickup truck, it becomes more a case of like, all right, I'm on your tail now. Before that, it's very much more. That's the funny thing, because like if at any point he just lets him go. And what I'm saying now is if Halsey just lets Ryder go at the beginning, then this probably doesn't play out the way it does. But 2020 hindsight and all that, it's the moment where they kind of like cross paths, and Ryder jumps in, catches a ride in the pickup truck, which he eventually ends up making his. That's the moment where it's like, okay, there's no going back now. Like, you're absolutely in his sights. But I like this. I like to think of this movie as, because I agree. I think everyone in the film gives really good performances, and if there's a criticism, it's probably going to be more on the scripting or maybe the slightly more derivative things that the movie does. But I would describe this movie as a film where everybody makes the worst choices possible at all times.
Yeah,
and
including smaller characters. Like, what family would be like, let's pick up a hitchhiker and put him in the back seat with our daughter?
Absolutely.
Like, what the fuck?
For sure. But at the same time, I completely enjoy watching them making these choices.
Yeah.
So,
right.
It's just
that is the weird. That's the thing I was talking about earlier. That is the weird kind of like push and pull where you're like, all right, I'm on board for this movie and what it's doing, and with that comes the caveat that you're probably going to have to.
There is a buy-in, isn't there? Like,
for sure.
You watch a film and you're like, okay, well, look, I'm just going to accept that people are going to make stupid choices because. There isn't going to be a Friday the 13th Part 3 if they're all nice to the boy in the first one in the flashbacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Watching this movie, I thought of our discussion last week, Dave, because you guys talked about all these decisions in the movie that you would normally not go with. But then last week you wondered where the strings went when someone draws a sword out of a guitar neck, slicing open a UFO.
Yeah. Hey, look, my buy-in.
What the fuck is this movie?
my buy-in will only go so far, and where it comes to realistic depiction of musical instruments, I'm afraid I'm a stickler.
Yeah, hard line in the sand on that one for Dave.
Absolutely.
David mentioned that this seems to be an HBO production, but the first logo that you actually see on screen is the one of Canon Films.
Yeah.
So it seems like Canon picked it up for distribution probably, and I think that probably gives you like the two ends of the spectrum that this movie also represents.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me, because apart from Masters of the Universe, this might be my favorite Canon film.
Yeah, it's that logo, man. It's so good.
Yeah.
There's just so much character, and you just know right away with that thing.
Yeah, it always reminds me of RoboCop for some reason, because of OCP probably. Like that, that very similar kind of octagonal, multi-layered, almost 3D printed, like in today's parlance.
Also edited by the editor of RoboCop.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
that explains a lot.
In fact, a bunch of things. Let me tap on his name again really quick, because after
RoboCop
mentioned
Paul Verhoeven movie, Paul Verhoeven. Rutger Hauer started out, or at least we became aware of him in Paul Verhoeven movies from the Netherlands. So they made movies together before they came to Hollywood.
So we just need to thank Paul Verhoeven for this movie, clearly.
Yeah.
It's all him.
Yeah, he edited. So here's the run that this dude had. Jesus Christ. Look at the run that this dude had in a row. So a lot of stuff in the 70s that, he did some great stuff in there, but a lot of stuff I've never heard of. He did the Conan movies. Obviously those I've heard of. But then he does the second Conan movie, then Red Sonja. Then he does The Hitcher. The next year he does RoboCop. The next year he edits Die Hard. The next year he edits Roadhouse. The year after that, Total Recall. And then 2 years after that, Basic Instinct. Then we get into Cliffhanger, Tombstone.
Mostly Paul Verhoeven movies.
Yeah, a lot of Paul Verhoeven movies. And then, has a kind of an odd ending. He did Cutthroat Island, Lethal Weapon 4, Deep Blue Sea, and then helped on the prequel to The Thing. But yeah, crazy run of movies there. Anyway,
low key, that run in the 80s for him, culminating in what, Basic Instinct 1991?
Like 91, 92, yeah.
Yeah. What a run. Holy shit.
Kidding. I looked up more stuff the other day or yesterday about the director. There's not a name that I recognized, Robert Harmon, and he ended up he continued to work, but didn't end up doing a lot of stuff that we really would think, or at least that I would remember or know of. He did that movie that came out in 2002. I only even know it because it had Wes Craven's name on the cover, who I think he just was a producer. I don't think that he did anything on the film. And then I would just see the video all the time at the Blockbuster and movie galleries that I would work at. Thanks, man. I was just delivered coffee.
Nice.
And then the other weird thing, my dad was a big fan of these direct-to-TV TNT movies that were based off these Robert B. Parker books, these Jesse Stone books, and Tom Selleck played Jesse Stone. I remember my dad coming in and renting every single fucking one of these movies. Robert Harbin directed like 10 of them. There's like, if you look at his film, like he seriously did like a ton there at the end. So that was his career toward the end. And
he did Blue Bloods in amongst that as well, which is another
TV and
another thing that what's his face Selleck was in.
Selleck, yeah. So yeah, I had like a interesting. I was not expecting to see a wall of Jesse Stone movies. Like, I had not seen those since my dad was renting them back. There's such dad movies too.
You find
like
your niche,
it's classic.
you know what I mean? Like you find your comfort place, and you can make a good career out of that.
You really can. For sure. And then
the thing that I was surprised that Dave hasn't brought up yet, that Armin Shimerman is in this movie.
It was on my list of things to mention. A young Quark is in this movie. And like I
one of the rare roles that you see him in when he's not in Star Trek.
I know, literally this and Buffy the Vampire Slayer are the only two times that I remember seeing him out of makeup.
Oh, that's crazy. I'm clicking on his name. I don't know Star Trek like you guys do, but I recognize this dude in makeup. So I've seen that character. That was Next Generation, I think.
Technically, yes. Actually, he appeared in a couple of episodes.
Okay.
He appeared in 2 episodes of TNG, and then he was a series regular on Deep Space Nine.
Got it. Okay. And then what was the last thing I was going to mention? Oh, yeah. So the screenwriter, Eric Red. So I read a little bit about him as well. He also wrote Near Dark, which is another sort of, very kind of classic horror film. One that personally I'm not end up a huge fan of, but a lot of people love it. And also the movie Bad Moon, he wrote and directed, that werewolf movie, which I've never seen, but I've seen the poster many times. It's got a great poster. And then, Andi, did you happen to read anything about Eric Red and a car crash that he had?
No.
There was
remember reading the movies that you just listed, but I don't remember reading anything about a car crash.
I don't want to get too into it because it happened over 20 years ago, and it seems like maybe there was some like severe stuff going on. But he got into this car wreck where a bunch of people got like he crashed his truck into a bar, and some people were killed. And then he got out of the car and like got a piece of glass that was on the ground and tried to cut his own throat. There's all this crazy shit about Eric Red that I read, that all these like legal things. So the whole kind of rabbit hole with him that I read about as well. But it's another sort of like interesting. It kind of reminded me of reading about when we watched The Changeling and reading about the people involved with The Changeling, about this like classic horror movie that had these like, careers after that we have these sort of touch points for, but didn't end up making a bunch of these. They didn't become like franchise staples or horror guys or whatever. But just a crazy team group of people between the editing, the cinematography, and writing, directing, acting. It is one of those things that I'm glad Andi mentioned that at the top of the segment, with it being an exploitation film. It does seem like a movie where no one was trying to make an exploitation film, but all of these professional people accidentally made one kind of thing. So there's this vibe and this feeling of it that has a grittiness that's baked in, but you kind of don't notice it at first because everything else, seems like they weren't trying to make a movie like that. So anyway,
it's very interesting that Dave basically started out talking about the movie with pointing out how good it looks, and the editor and the DP are the ones that had huge careers and made huge movies.
Yeah, good point.
And the script writer and the director, not the guys that kept doing big things.
Sometimes I think we're all a little bit guilty, me more than most, of assigning a lot of the credit for how a film looks to the director. Because the
same here,
because it's always a case of, well, the director chooses the shots and he says, right, okay, that's a good one, let's move on. But like without a good DP, you're not going to have a well lit shot, and without a good editor, you're not going to have them come together seamlessly as a good film does.
I feel like a lot of the best directors too, one of the first things you'll hear them say when talking about these things is they immediately name and credit their DP and talk about how like this. This works because of this guy. Like this is his entire job. This is like, I'm trusting him in these moments in the same way he's trusting me to do our jobs. And speaking to somebody who works in a collaborative medium, I mean, and this isn't like a massive revelation that anyone's going to be shocked to hear. It always produces better work. Always. Like when you have that sort of relationship that you can trust that this person that knows more than you, knows better than you, has, this training or whatever to do their job, the results are going to be better. If you need to fine tune it afterwards or whatever, that's fine. But the more sort of like chokehold and micromanagement and creative control you try to enforce, the more it locks and boxes these people in, and they're not able to do what they have gained the experience and the talent to do successfully. So yeah, I always take note of that. You hear like recently Coogler has been a big one. I know, Andi, you've been down that rabbit hole too. I haven't watched Sinners, but talking about his cinematographers and that relationship and everything else. And you could tell Coogler knows his stuff. Like he's knowledgeable and knows how it all works. But to your point, he's trusting them.
Yeah, you do occasionally come across these polymath directors who, they'll direct the movie and then maybe they'll put their editor's hat on and they'll edit their movie as well. But even then, nobody's ever going to accuse Kevin Smith of being the greatest filmmaker of all time. And I'm not going to sit here and say that. But I am aware that he has a hand in editing his movies along with God damn it, I can't remember his name right now.
I don't know that has he ever not edited his stuff?
He's always been in on the editing, but I forget who was his podcasting partner.
Oh, Scott Mosier.
Scott Mosier, being a producer, I think he was also involved with editing. I could be wrong. But
sure.
More often than not, I think a lot of directors know that they need to trust. As you were saying, basically, there are people out there who can do this job better than I can, and if I put too many hats on, I'm not going to be able to give my best in every role. So that's the case.
Yeah, and to your point, and to Andy's point too, I think that's one of the things that's so interesting about Fury Road specifically, since we've got some overlap there. That when I first heard that about how George Miller, I'm trying to remember her name. That edited the film, but she, the way that they shot it and the way that they edit it, keeping the center of the action in the middle of the frame at all times for cut, all that kind of stuff, where it's just this entire thing only works because of this. Obviously there's so many other components going on, but it would just be. That's kind of the sense everybody got walking out of that movie. There's that quote from Soderbergh that I've always loved of I don't know how they're not still shooting it, and I don't know how people aren't dead. You watch this movie, and it would be, without that cinematography, without that editing, it would just be chaos that you cannot make heads or tails of. And the fact that you can watch that film and not only make heads or tails of it, but it is arguably the greatest visually told action film of all time. I would maybe go that far and say it's, the level is just insane. Fundamentally, the editing, the cinematography is locked the fuck in. It's not something that they're just we'll figure this out. We'll figure it out in the edit. It's all so tightly controlled and with people at the, tops of their games too. Anyway.
And Soderbergh actually is one of those guys that does everything on his movie.
Yeah, true.
Hey, some
sometimes
guys
edits other people's movies for fun.
Yeah,
he'll do those cuts and stuff. So,
also something that I noticed, and I don't know if we brought this up or not. We probably did, and I was distracted by the dog or something. But we mentioned Eric Red earlier, and it turns out he wrote the remake of The Hitcher as well as
I saw that he's accredited. There's a few screenwriters on the remake, but he was one of them. I noticed that too. Yeah. Which normally, if it's just an adaptation thing, it's like a story by credit. But yeah, I noticed that as well. Yeah. No, but he's credited on the script. So I think arbitration wise, maybe sometimes there's situations where if they take the script and rewrite, depending on how much is left, it might be something where they started with the original script. Yeah. But I did clock that as well, because usually you don't see that. And then I think he wrote the sequel. Did you say that?
No, I don't see a credit for the sequel here.
Okay.
So his writing credits, he's got 8 credits in total on his page at least, starting with The Hitcher in '86, Near Dark, Cohen and Tate, Blue Steel, Body Parts, Bad Moon, The Hitcher, and then a film called At 100 Feet, which I am not at all familiar with, but Famke Janssen was apparently the star. So
I just realized
Steel, I think, is another Catherine Bigelow movie, right?
Could be.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. So he did 2 Catherine Bigelow movies.
co-wrote it with her. And also, I just realized Body Parts is that movie with Jeff Fahey where the guy is like getting an arm transplant and it's like a killer's arm.
Oh,
and he starts...
there's so many of those movies. Normally it's like an eye transplant and you see dead people or some shit. Yeah.
I forgot about this movie.
Holy hell.
I didn't realize he wrote it. Anyway.
Love it.
So... I'd like to see Bad Moon. Yeah, there's more of his films in here that I would like to, that I've kind of have been on my radar but never watched. So maybe I'll do an Eric Red deep dive at some point in the future. Near Dark, man, we did an episode on that. That's one movie. That's probably one of if I had to make a list of horror movies I wish I liked more, it would be in the top 5. I don't hate it. I totally get why people love it. I think the poster is one of the best ever. I think it's such a great poster. Like everything about it for me should work, and for whatever reason I just do not click with it, but maybe I'll rewatch it at some point and change my mind.
Well, I'm going to be rewatching Fury Road, I think.
Oh man, anytime's a great time for that.
Absolutely.
Do we have any other big thoughts? I mean, I feel like we kind of burned through this quick, but also like that's the kind of movie it is. Like it's lean, it's very much a, as we said, hit the ground driving and you go until the movie's over. Like it has that vibe to it. There's another thing I thought of during the film, but I'm saving that for my double feature pick. So unless you guys have any other thoughts, we can move into that.
Can't say I've got anything myself. Andy?
I'm good.
Cool. All right, let's do double feature picks. I won't mess up our normal order though. So Andi, kick us off. What'd you pick this week?
The normal order that you have decided.
Correct.
At some point.
The normal scrambling for time.
I'm still not sure what this normal order is, to be honest. It feels completely arbitrary.
It's just
on the
Andi
day.
going first is the normal order.
Okay.
The rest of it doesn't matter. That gives us time. Yeah.
So I picked another exploitation movie, very much an exploitation movie, by a director that I've already mentioned today, Ryuhei Kitamura. The movie is called Downrange, and it is
I've seen this movie.
kind of the exact opposite to The Hitcher.
Yeah,
it is a car on a road movie, but it's a being stuck on a road movie while the sniper shoots at you. So there's no motion at all. So in that sense, it is the counterpart, but it is the vibe of it, the absolute exploitation to the core, and cars and the road play roles in the movie, but it's there's this unseen, unknown sniper hidden somewhere shooting at people that are stuck on that road and then hiding behind cars and behind trees, and as soon as someone as much as lifts ahead, he will shoot them, and they have to figure out a way to get away and take out this sniper. And
in true exploitation film manner, extraordinarily violent. Like one of the every person that gets killed in this movie, there's about 40% more blood and gore than you would expect a human body to have in that moment for however they were killed. That's my memory.
So I enjoyed it for its this stripped down exploitation character of it. So don't expect any character development or any meaning of life questions. It's just people stuck on a road being shot at.
Cool. All right, I'll go next. Give you a little bit more time in case you need a tape.
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So there's a movie I thought of a lot watching this one that for me was my Hitcher when I was a kid. In 2001, J.J. Abrams co-wrote a film called Joyride, which, have you guys seen this? It feels like a movie you probably both have seen, if I had to guess.
I have not. It's a movie that came to mind while watching The Hitcher because of what I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
I'm just looking it up now because it sounds familiar, but It's
Paul Walker and Steve Zahn are the two, and then Lily Sobieski.
Like I might... Yeah, I think I have, but I don't remember the details at all.
So I haven't seen it since probably back then. My memory of it is that it's very much of its time, sort of like, we're out of the 90s going into the 2000s, like MTV editing kind of, obviously you can tell from the cast that, especially back then, was like a young sort of like CW, like hot actors kind of thing. And it's kind of this movie, like, honestly, like it's basically this, but
Kane. Yes, I have seen this.
Yeah. There's the premise of it is that they're pranking They get on a CB radio, and they talk to this trucker, and they're essentially messing with him. They're fucking with him and pranking him and kind of making fun of him. And the girl that's with him, Lily Sobieski's character, she's, from what I remember, like not into it and telling him to stop. And he gets this trucker who's voiced by Ted Levine. So you have him, this voice, Buffalo Bill, throughout the entire movie, coming over the radio. And is then chasing them down. So it's probably, I haven't seen Duel. I would imagine it's probably Duel was another big inspiration for it. But if I had to guess, all road movies like this probably come from Duel and The Hitcher, or like the two origin points. And so this kind of felt like a synthesis of those. So they're then terrorized and chased. I think also kind of a Route 66 sort of situation from what I remember. And there's a trucker that's trying to kind of chase them down, and we have like an on the road sort of thing. So yeah, this was for me the movie of this era, this age, a movie that I imagine when it came out, any horror fan in their 20s or older was like, this is the Hitcher and Duel. Like, what, we're not watching this bullshit. But for me at that age, having not seen any of that stuff, I thought it was crazy. I thought it was like so intense, and it would have been probably also the first time I was interacted with Abrams. This would have been back when he was still, writing scripts on the side and then doing TV stuff. So probably right around Alias, maybe right before. So yeah, that's my pick. What you got, Dave?
So I've gone for a film that I saw for the first and only time when I was staying with Andi and Bianca, probably in about 2015, I want to say. My memory for dates is terrible. And this film originally came out in 2010, and I'd been meaning to watch it for years and years and years. And eventually I was like, it was early morning on the last day of staying with Andi and Bianca, and I clicked onto Netflix, and I think it was there, despite the fact that I think they may have also had a copy of it on DVD at the time. So Rubber from 2010. It's basically The Hitcher, except that the Rutger Hauer character is played by a tire.
Car tire,
with psychokinetic powers. And it's a very... I forgot about the weirdness of the opening scenes of that movie until I was reacquainting myself with it on Wikipedia, because literally it's got this very art house opening where a bunch of people kind of come together, sit down in the desert, get their binoculars out, and are basically told you're about to watch a film, except the film is happening around them.
Yeah.
So strange.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I have seen this as well. I think I saw it back when it came out, so it was, but you're right.
16 years ago now. God.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. So it's actually a French movie, but made in English. So there you go.
Great pick. Yeah. Cool. All right. Listeners, let us know what you thought of The Hitcher. If you've seen it, odds are you probably have. But if not, check it out for sure. As we mentioned at the top of the segment, it is on Broly, which is absolutely free. All you got to do is make an account, and then everything on there is easily streamable. So check it out. Let us know what you thought. And you can do that over on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as we mentioned earlier. And longer form thoughts, like our good friend Jake Dion, send it to him. Send him an email. Send us an email over at Eerie International.
We're not in the habit of doxing our listeners, don't worry.
Yeah, eerieinternational@gmail.com. But in the meantime, stay safe out there. Keep watching horror movies, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.